Hey, welcome back. Season 2, episode 14 or 15.
Well, I think it's 15, Brett.
I do too. I seem to think that's 15 of the Cattle Drive Live. Brett Carter with my good buddy Corey Thompson. How's things in South Dakota?
Spring has not gotten here quite yet. Everybody is getting anxious to get in the field and get some corn in the ground. I know several buddies out east that are ready for it to dry out. We're ready for some rain in South Dakota, but we need some warm temperatures to warm the soil up a little bit as well.
Did you ever think someone would be excited to plant corn at 200 and something dollars a bag and $1,000 for nitrogen? Did you ever think anybody just be waiting on the dirt to get right?
Well, when they're selling it for 8.75, I think today, it's
Yeah.
it's
I'll tell
next
you
year
what you do.
right now.
You find me a business that is more optimistic than the livestock world, and I
The
want in.
agriculture in general, that's for
Yeah, I
sure.
don't care what if we're selling bull semen or whatever. Everybody's optimistic. So,
Yeah,
uh,
yep,
hey,
that is
I tell you what, there is nobody any more optimistic right now than somebody that breeds Boer goats.
well, that's what I was going to say. Did you
Oh,
see
wow!
that? How about
Look
that?
at that. Uh,
Unbelievable.
Blue Team Weathers. It was an SC online sale, and I'm telling you that he didn't even sell, and it was already making the rounds.
Well, and
He
they sell the first collection. Did you see the first collection sold for like 40,000 some odd dollars?
is really
Yeah, yep,
wow. Just a
yeah,
few more of those, and the guy can buy him a new skid steer,
yeah. That's
right?
right.
You know what?
That
That's
is,
what we'll hear about them skid steers later. But
that's right. Yeah.
hey, this is no joke. I zoomed in on this. I zoomed in on that goat. And they were talking about that thing's bone and shag and all that stuff. Did you see his hair on his legs?
Yeah,
He genuinely looked like a heat wave fat steer. I mean, like it was just like it was sick. Uh,
unbelievable.
congratulations, Team Blue Team, on setting the internet on fire this week.
Well, they blew the internet up.
Yeah, but you know, our auction this week is powered by CCI Live, and their big sale of the week was a goat sale. Corey, the exclusive, held there at Pfeiffer Farms, there west of Stillwater. They sell 49 lots of these goats, average 640,200 gross 640. Those things average 13,065 bucks on some Boer goats this past weekend.
That's unbelievable. This goat deal is just getting crazy.
It is right. They've been after it though. It's not like it just come out from underneath the rock. These guys know what they're doing. But hey, big week of SC online sales though.
Yep.
We got mock cattle and there. Where is Trip, South Dakota? Where's my?
Yeah,
Where's the?
just south of Mitchell there. Yep, Justin Muck, good buddy of
Yeah,
mine. Yep.
they sell 29 embryos, average $1,279. They sell some In God We Trust and Here I Am's out of 500, which is a born free donor,
Yep.
$3,200 an embryo.
Oh my goodness.
Jason Minert has him a fall-born heifer sale the other day, a purebred Charolais for 16,000, a chosen one female for 9,250, and a Peace of Mind at 7,000. That
Mhm.
blue team weather we just flipped up there, $310,000 for him, and you say a $40,000 for first collection that sells as well.
It's a
So,
pretty good ticket for a goat sale.
oh,
Then
Right Charolais and WGB, they sell 10 fall Charolais heifers the other day, 82.47 average. Sell them into 6 states off SC.
then
So
we get into steer bidder. They had a big week. Houston Cattle Mike Houston sells 18 pregnant recips that he puts his embryos into for an average of 3,555. Sullivan Cattle in Mississippi sold 29 head of fallborns, average 42.87. Border Town down there right on the Texas-Oklahoma line there. They sell a Garth heifer, a purebred Maine, for $16,000, and Classic Cattle Company sells an Epic Bull for $6,000.
Yep, that's right. We're still selling the fallborns down here. I guess you just go out each morning and gather the ones that hadn't found the tree that rubbed their hair out, and those are the ones you sell for the week.
Yep, that's
So,
right.
yep. Hey, we're going to click right along. We've got a big night tonight, but tonight is brought to us by Ryan McIntosh. He's having an upcoming sale here. Paige sent me this sheet here, May 1st. It's on the Show Cattle Connection. He's in Westchester, Ohio. There's 14 lots. The pictures and videos are up on the Ryan McIntosh Show Cattle page. They will be online here shortly. But if you've got any questions, get a hold of Ryan at 513-295-7385. The cattle are there in Winchester, Ohio. Sale comes up May 1 on the Show Cattle Connection. We want to thank Ryan for being our episode sponsor tonight. Big episode featuring the crew at Lautner Farms. Phil and Chance will be on here later. And with the Brad Otto. So this is going to be a big night of getting through this evolution series. Corey, my phone's blown up since last week with John Griswold and Dean Kephart. That was fun. I think I could have talked to those guys 2 more hours. I love listening to history and
a lot of good stories. Hey, speaking of John, we got his beautiful wife on tonight, don't we?
That's what they say. There she is. Hi, Jeannie.
How are you guys?
Hey, we're doing great, Jeannie.
We're kind of coming at you from a different view. John's decided to come down with the stomach flu, maybe because he had to be on here and he's not really. So.
I got you. Yeah, no, it's nice to have you on, and we'd like to take just a minute to say thank you. It's going to be a fun year partnering with you guys. And having you all on with some marketing each month with the G-Bar brand. But what do you got for us this week in terms? I know you said it's time to breed the heifers.
It is breeding time. It's breeding time at our house. I know we bred for about 7 days here and then gave a shot of lube, and it was fast and furious. I think we bred 75 one day and 70 the next. I mean, we have flat out whipped through them here. Wow. If you have not got this handy dandy book, make sure you get a hold of us and get one. You can get it on our website at www.griswoldcattle.com. All of our bulls are listed there, and you can order any semen right online, or else call Macy, call John, call Jakey, whoever you want to talk to, ask questions. We want to make you guys money. That's the bottom thing. We want to make you guys money. We want to make your cow base better. And that's kind of our goal. But right now we are focusing hardcore on heifers. I think it's on everybody's brain. And as we're breeding these heifers, the number one thing is we don't want just calving ease. We want to add value to your bottom line. We want to make a good, solid cow base. We've got a new Angus bull we're super pumped about, that Play It Safe bull. You know, it's been hard for us to find an Angus bull that was calving ease that we could just grab a hold of after Gold Standard. This one here has got the pedigree, the consistency. We're super pumped about him. He's a Bravo Son C4 raised. You can see him in the upper left-hand corner. Full tilt. That's a main calving ease bull that's done a great job. Lover Boy has probably, I think he was he's some of those semen companies' top seller last year. He's one of our best sellers. They come easy, beautiful udders, perfect little teeth, super nice. Of course, spot on that we own with Rob Van Hove. Just bulls that, I mean, I don't know if there's 110% true calving ease sire, but these are darn near as close we can get. These are bulls that we have faith in. We've bred into hundreds, if not thousands, of females. We know what they're going to produce. We know how they're going to come out. I mean, it's ones we're super excited to put the G-Bar brand on the side of them and roll on. But good bulls that, number one, are going to add value, not just calving ease. Like, you're going to have something done when it's all said and finished. So
that's good.
Have you heard, speaking of Jakey, have you heard from him this week? What state's he?
he gets kind of snootish. Jakey, I hope you're listening to this. He called me to fix something on the website that I'd done wrong. He calls John, but he must not like me this time of year. He must have somebody else that he's chitter-chattering with. I don't know where he's even at. John does. If he was here, John talks to him every day.
Oh, yeah.
Really hear
That's what's got John's stomach upset. He has to talk to that guy.
I thought you guys might know where he's at. It seems like everybody else keeps more dibs on him than we do. And I haven't listened to his latest Facebook Live, so.
Right. Hey, talk to us about these bulls here. You hit on the fact that they're Cavanese, but you know something that we all know with the G bar is it's maternal matters. The cow side of these bulls, when you guys are out shopping for bulls or marketing bulls, that female side of that bull matters.
Oh, hands down. That bull, that Play It Safe bull, I think Corey just shipped us out. We're going to have some semen listed on the website. We're just opening that bull up. He's listed tonight. I did it right before I got on here. And he is out of just a phenomenal donor cow that flat out will make them. I mean, and that in all reality, when it comes right down to it, that's what it's all about. I mean, that's what turns our crank on him. And I mean, just line bred for consistency. He goes back to some of those awesome OCC genetics. Full tilt. We saw him when he was showing down in Fort Worth and got super excited about him. I mean, he's got some bone and some shape and just he's made right. And those babies, I think we thought that they'd be nice, but I don't think we knew how nice they would be last year. I mean, there were some of them that sold for quite a bit of money and just did really good. And of course, gold standard out of that great 925R cow, I think we've kept probably 4 different bulls out of 925R. We've got a heifer, a money earned heifer we just bred out of her last night. We've got donor cows out of her. That cow did so much good for our program. I don't think when we got gold standard, we knew just how powerful his dam was, but she was phenomenal. And of course, Lover Boy, that's a bull that John and I found when we were back in Denver, and we weren't really looking for a purebred semi-bull. We had one we were already promoting, and I kind of got my dad in on him, and they bought him. And I watched those cattle for 3 or 4 years and kind of saw what they were doing. Dad went and bred him to all of their heifers for 2 or 3 years. Got him perfect. I knew he was going to calve good. I'd seen the daughters. I'd seen him wet. That was one thing that really got me excited about this bull, is that I knew what the females were going to turn out with. And the bulls, I mean, the bulls, they've kept a couple of sons of his. I think they averaged 1 year, they averaged like 7,000 in the bull cell. I mean, they're just remarkable cattle. Like when it comes right down to it, we want something that's going to calve out and that's going to come easy. We want them to be marketable at the end of the day. Those first calf heifers, that's where a lot of people are putting the resources. I mean, they put a lot of time getting them developed and getting to that point, and just getting all those things AI'd, like that's a big deal to people. And so we want to have something that's marketable. And of course, Spot On, that's something we're super excited about. That bull is just out of phenomenal on the mark, female on the bottom side. And of course, Robbie's program, I don't know if it gets much better than that when you talk about just solid, good, soggy maternal females. So, I mean, we're pumped about them. It's a calving sire lineup that we're pretty excited about, and I hope you guys will give them a shot to Dane Shore.
Yep, heck yeah.
We're pretty heavy to all of them. They're all getting used right now at the G bar. So
you bet. Well, thanks a bunch, Jeannie. We'll probably have Jakey back again next week, but it was refreshing to have you on this week.
I'll try and get my husband all better too. So
sounds good.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
All right. Bye, Jeannie. Good folks and good cattle. And I got to tell this story real quick. You know, it's as we work through this evolution series here, we're obviously talking with guys and breeders, and we talked with John and them last week about bulls they currently promote. It's kind of without just beating around the bush, it's kind of tough to let one person talk about their bull and the next person not talk about their bull. But this whole corporate partners that we have for the year, John was the very first one we had. And so I said, hey, I got an issue, John. he said, "What's the problem?" I said, "Well, we're going to have Phil Lautner and that crew on, and I don't know if we ought to be promoting bulls on top of other people." And he said, "Brett, I like Phil Lautner, and I like Phil Lautner's bulls, and his bulls work real good on my cows." And so I thought that was really a compliment. I had to repeat that from John. He feels that same way. I mean, he enjoyed last week, but
Yep.
that was just kind of unique. I know we're going to have a big timer on tonight with Phil and Chance, promoters, but it was just funny. John, he was almost hurt his feelings that we wasn't going to let him talk about it. He said, "Man, his bulls work great on my cows." So anyway, speaking of that, we got some guests tonight, don't we?
Yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's bring Phil and Chance Lautner in. They are the owners and operators of Lautner Farms. Guys, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. You bet. And with us tonight, there he is, Brad Otto.
Hey, Brad.
How we doing, fellas?
Doing good. Doing good.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, hey, we're going to dive right into this thing and get to talking about it. We are at number 3, part 3 of this evolution of the Club Calf Bull series, and we have just landed in Jefferson, Iowa. And I don't think there's been any more anticipation for an episode than the Lautner episode here. Phil, Chance, give us just a little bit of background. Jump back a ways before these bulls, Phil, and tell us how you were raised. Tell us a little bit about your family and some things about you that maybe somebody doesn't know.
We were raised on a crop and livestock farm, and didn't farm a whole bunch. And I went to school after I got out of high school. I went to college for a year, and I guess we got a farm rented, and then I trying to figure out how to make a living. I went and worked at the packing house for about 2 or 3 years, and went to Denver a few times, and knew there had to be a better way than that. And so I decided I'd see if we could get a bull or two. I guess I saw Paul Clapp and Bobby May do it, and I thought maybe there was room for another one in there.
There you go.
Yep.
That's
Brad, how about yourself?
Actually, born in Manning, where I live now. My dad was actually a barber for 30 years, and we actually raised commercial pigs. And didn't own a bovine until I suppose I was 10 or 11 years old, and I was tugging on my parents to that I thought it would be awful neat to show a calf, and so we weren't big cattle people. Just started showing cattle when I was early in 4-H, and always had a little passion for it, and just kind of grew from there.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha. Chance, what's it like being there at Lautner Farms? You obviously grew up in the bull business. There's no way around it. Your dad was going when you come along. What's that like today, continuing that legacy?
It's certainly been a lot of fun. I grew up showing steers back in the, I guess, early 2000s, and that's when a lot of these bulls we might talk about later were pretty popular, and got to see and meet a lot of people, and it's been one heck of a ride, I guess, and it's fun to look back on those times. And
right.
So yeah.
Well, hey, let's get into this deal. Just after talking to you two and other people about these bulls, I guess the bull that was unanimous kind of as the bull that started it for you, Phil, was the Jackpot bull. And he was a bull. Did your brother raise him?
Yes, Wayne raised him, and I think he was a Sugar Ray, and I believe it might have been the first bull we took to Denver.
Okay. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And Brad, you leased that bull? Did you?
Yeah,
say?
Actually, we kept a few show heifers back, and then my dad bought a couple little sets of Angus cows from Actually, one of them was our high school superintendent, and some of them were some old Marshall Pride Angus cows, and we had a Lacombe Gigolo back on one of them Marshall Pride Angus cows, and we leased Jackpot. And I don't remember if it was Jackpot's first year or second year, but we leased Jackpot from Phil and Bruce Brune, a guy from just south of town. Their family had an Angus herd, and he was clipping a bunch for Dwayne and Shiny Hilbert at the time, and seen that calf. And long story short, one of the bigger club calf sales in Iowa was called the Extravaganza. Tom Berglund and Chester Lee and Gene Deerdorf, and towards the end, Griswold was involved in that. And Bruce called to see if we could get that calf in there. And long story short, I think Bob Bruns was maybe working for John at the time, and he grabbed that calf on his way to Des Moines, and he brings 7,700. I think he was the second high seller, so we thought we was in tall cotton that night. But
And that was a Jackpot calf.
that was a Jackpot back on a red night. It was actually a red night Lacombe Gigolo Angus cow, and I probably couldn't have been Jackpot's first year because he was a big one when we leased him, and so I know he wasn't a yearling, but it would have been in the early stage of early 90s, 92 maybe, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
exactly.
Phil, you hit on the fact that you went to Denver and you thought there was maybe a better way to make a living, and you thought you saw Bob May have a bull and Paul Clapp had a bull at the time. What did you see?
Yes,
about
Dave
that?
Steen too.
Okay. Oh, Dave Steen.
Yeah,
That's Corey's old buddy.
yeah.
That is right.
The Maine Association. Yep.
Yeah.
Dave had an old key bull called Gigolo too, if I remember right.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, no.
So what did you see in the bull business? I mean, it's, obviously we know what you see in it today, but what did you see in it then at a wet behind the ears Iowa kid in Denver? What did you see? What was it about what those guys were doing that was intriguing to you?
Well, there were back then there weren't that many people doing it, and you figured you didn't have nothing to lose. You might as well try to do it yourself, and
Right.
see what happens,
Okay. And Sugar Ray, that calf, you Brad, you said maybe that you guys raised that Jackpot. I mean, what breeding those cattle back in those days, we've learned up to this point, the sire selection was real small. There wasn't a sire book that was 30 pages deep. Talk about those early sires that you had to use.
Oh, the ones I can vividly remember were the tail ends of the Black Power plays, and then we kind of transitioned to Sugar Ray. I don't remember when Platinum would have came in there, but I think I sold Phil a Platinum sired calf out of a Sugar Ray cow, and that would have been in the early to mid 90s. And Phil was sending a bunch of steers down to Sturwalt, and they were trading some stuff back and forth. And I bought actually this Platinum steer from the same guy that raised MAB, Greg Bernhardt. And Sturwalt had a family in Colorado. Snyders were their name. I think the dad's name was Sonny. I'm not sure what them boys' names were, but that steer ends up winning that Wichita Falls, that big show. I think it's in Lawton, and ends up winning the Colorado State Fair that next summer. But Platinum would have been one. I think Jack Stoltz had a bull called Husker. And then we transitioned. The full throttle, some of the Kephart bulls. Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Yep. Some of the Kephart bulls, full throttle, was a big one. Now, hey, he scared everybody calving, but if you could get them out, they were usually pretty good,
Right. Well, we lose Corey for a second.
He just gelled up a little.
There he is. There you are, Corey.
Yeah, I got everybody locked up for a minute there. Yep. I'm back now.
Okay. I don't think he is back. I don't know where he went. His sun's in his eye. Yeah, that's all right. Well, he'll come back here in just a minute. Phil, Chance, what about you guys? Phil,
Hello.
he was talking about some of those bulls. Is there a bull that sticks out to you in those early days in your early career that you felt like you had to have a son of or something different than?
Oh, I guess Dwayne and Shiny Hilbert, they had, I think that bull's name was Black American, wasn't it?
Oh, man.
Yeah, it could be. I guess I don't remember him as well, but and then another bull I think we need to talk about is Power Plant, and that was a main bull, and there was a ton of sons of Power Plant. I think Platinum was a Power Plant son. Take Charge, which is Who Made Who's sire, was a Platinum or a Power Plant son. So that bull was pretty influential as far as there was a ton of sons out of Power Plant that kind of made a splash. What was Witch Doctor? Was he a Power Plant too? I can't remember, but
I think he was.
That bull had a big impact, and you were just seeing some more hair and some more bone, and structure was perceived perfect way back then was a lot different than it is today. A lot of them would probably be they'd get a band on them. It was just a different ball game back then as far as the structure is concerned.
Right. Gotcha. So we click along here and have Jackpot. Phil, take us along the journey here real quick at the early onset of Lautner Farms. Talk about Jackpot and then talk about what was next, probably Payback.
Payback was probably the next bull we had, and we bought him off Bob Gassman. He was I believe he was a fistful of dollars, maybe out of a get-rich-quick cow.
Okay.
And I think, he ended up selling, he was calving these, and he ended up selling quite a bit of semen. We had a steer in 1998 that won the Iowa State Fair that was out of Payback that Matt showed, I guess, and he sired the Indiana State Fair champion in 99, and he was used quite heavily.
No, yeah.
That him being Cavanese, did that sure help him get into some of those places early on in your career?
Yes, it did. And did I mention he was raised by Bob Gassman? I did. Okay, in South Dakota. I was
actually along. I don't know if you remember, Phil. I was along the night you picked him up about 1, 2 o'clock in the morning from Gassman's.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, he's my neighbor up here right by Madison, just not too far from Madison, South Dakota. Yep.
Yeah, no, go ahead, Corey.
You bet. And then fistful of dollars, wasn't he a Sugar Ray son, or is that right? Do you guys remember?
Which one?
Was Fistful of Dollars?
Oh, I can't remember, Corey.
I think he was. I'm pretty sure he was. Yep. All righty. Then after Payback, the next one I think it's going to be fun to talk about was Who Made Who. Tell us, Phil, a little bit. How did that bull? Where did he come from? Who raised him? What happened there?
He was raised by Damian Gallagher, and I think Dwayne Hilbert and I were both bidding on him, and then we finally decided to partner on him. And that bull went to Denver, and he was as hairy as you could ever seen one out there. And you can probably tell the story on Dwayne not wanting to clip very much hair off him.
Well, yeah, I don't think he'd even been roughed out. And the second day, he displayed him on a Thursday for a little bit, and then he displayed him on Friday all day. And it was Friday late afternoon, and I went by his display, and Dwayne was sitting there, and I said, Dwayne, when are you going to clip your bull? And God dang it, I used to be able to do a pretty good Hilbert imitation, not as good as Travis Otterstead, but a pretty good one. And Dwayne, he said, you like him? And I said, yeah, he looks really good. He said, well, how the hell do you think you're going to like him when I clip him?
That was a pretty good impression.
And then they clipped him. they clipped him the next day, and then of course he was the hit of Denver, and then I don't know how many state fair champions he sired and national champions he sired, but he was probably, and you guys know more about it than I would, but he probably was the first sire that put that much hair length and density on an animal at that era. Would that be right, or was there anything that made him that hairy back then?
Well, I don't think so.
That's just what I just remember thinking. He was the most god awful shaggy haired animal. And hell, looking back on it, he was TH clean, wasn't he?
He was, yeah.
Yeah, that's a wild deal. And he was a take charge, and was he a power plant or something like that?
Yeah, you missed that when you went to get a cheeseburger, Thompson. We already had that discussion.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. When you cut out, we talked all about that stuff.
Yeah,
So,
you guys locked up, and I knew it wasn't good. I texted Paige Mayday.
he said Mayday, but you're back. Hey, Phil, tell us something. At the end of the last part 2 series, we got in just a little bit to talking to Dean Kephart, that we feel like was the first one to put a sire guide together. It's still infamous. We had a video of it. It had the girls on the back in the bikini tops. You took that to a complete different level. Was that the first one? 2 parts. Number one, was that the first one of them that you had seen? And you must have saw value in that for yourself. Talk about the marketing side of these bulls, because your era completely changed how that happened.
We did quite a bit of advertising in several of those magazines, and I guess our first sire directory was just ads that I took out of the magazines, and I had Kinko's bind them together and laminate them. And well, I think the first year we
got one right here.
Well, they got it on the screen.
But this is a hard copy of it. I think he printed about 20 of these that first year, and he handed them out to people. But it's come a long way since then, I guess. But yeah.
Wow. So when you had that sire directory, you put, were you taking a little bit of the K-bar mentality? They said he threw a semen tank in a Western hauler and just went to them guys' places. Did you take to that same thought yourself and say that, or talk about that, that transition? How'd you get that semen to those guys and all that?
Well, we traveled to South Dakota quite a bit, and went to a lot of different places, and they saw some bulls they liked, so we were able to sell them some, I guess, and kind of grew from there.
Right. Did you obviously, and you still do, see value in going to the National Western or Cattlemen's Congress or wherever the case may be, multiple locations a year you display bulls. That hasn't probably changed over the years. The marketing through social media or mailing or semen deliveries changed, but the display in the bulls, you're still a big believer.
Yeah, I think that does a world of good. If you got one they like, it's the best place in the world to have one.
Right. All the bulls you've ever displayed, what's your favorite bull to this point? What's your favorite bull you've ever displayed?
I don't know.
The next one.
Heat Wave and probably, I don't know, Monopoly. It was kind of fun having Who Made Who there, just because Dwayne was there and he could tell a story, tell a new story every day, and you sure enjoyed listening to him.
Exactly. Yep. Thompson, you back with us?
Well, I tell you what, the internet's a little dicey up here in South Dakota tonight. Yes, it's been a bugger.
I see. No, we were just visiting while you were out again. We were visiting about just about Phil's first catalog and how he took the
Oh yeah.
the K-bar deal and elevated that some more. But we visited about who made who, and we visited last week a little bit about Heat Seeker and how Heat Seeker crossed over with who made who at that time. And Heat Seeker sires a pretty important pivotal bull there at Lautner Farms, didn't he?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think in terms of, we're going to talk about heat wave. In terms of the bull affecting the industry, as widespread as any bull, I would say. I mean, he'd have to. Wouldn't you? Both you guys say he would have affected the industry more than any of them, I think.
Yeah, I agree, and still does. Most of the bulls that are popular today are direct heat wave sons or grandsons. So,
Yep.
I mean, Heat Wave was born in 2000. He was raised by Max Foley in Indiana. We got some pictures on the screen there. That was actually some pictures that Max gave us there. That's Heat Wave himself as a baby calf. He was a bottle calf, actually. So,
That's unbelievable.
pretty interesting.
We purchased him from Joe Gincini, and Mike Widener told me I needed to go look at him, so I did. And when I went to Joe's, I thought I liked the heck out of him, and I bought him. And when I got home, I told Mike, asked him if he wanted to get in, and he said yes. And that was the beginning of Heat Wave, I guess.
Yep.
You actually had a full brother to Heat Seeker. Wasn't that the same year, Phil? All About You? Wasn't it All About You, Ladies Man, and Heat Wave all the same year? And maybe Heat Wave wasn't the total head of the class at the time, but ended up pulling away from them,
I know at the Ohio Beef Expo, I think we took Ladies Man and 2 or 3 of those other bulls, and I called somebody at home and told them to bring Heat Wave because I thought he needed to be there, and I'm glad we took him.
He was a June-born calf, so he was pretty small critter when we displayed him. So.
Hey, I'll never forget. Tim Heckman tells me the story that in Denver, I actually had a main bull on display right beside Heat Wave that year, and he was a June calf, so he was considerably smaller than the rest of the bulls on display in Denver. And Tim Heckman tells the story. There was somebody that walked up to you in Denver and said, "My, your bull's small," and you looked at him and said, "Why, thank you."
We always thought that was a good thing.
Yep.
He said, "Well, thank you." I like that.
That was pretty funny.
Hey, so you said that bull was on display there as a June calf. Did he obviously probably didn't make semen right out of the gate, did he, Phil?
No, he was pretty slow to do it, and we were lucky that we were able to get him going the next year. But I guess in like 2007, he must have sired 27 state fair grands or reserves, and I think he did make a lot of them that were sought by a lot of people, I guess.
Was there a few? Did like Todd Lau? Didn't he breed some to him the first year? Or didn't a few South Dakota guys breed to him late or not?
Yes.
Yeah. There was just a few to kind of get the fire started, and then 2000, the next year, 2007, he or 2000. What year? He was born in 2000, so it must have been 2002 is when he really caught fire and took over.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Phil or Chance?
2004 to 2000. I mean, he had a pretty long run of maybe 10 plus years of a lot of them major state fairs and major shows that he was winning a lot of them.
Right, exactly.
But
and that's along the same time as they cloned, but right before him, K-Bar cloned Flush, and then there's obviously the Heat Wave and the clones. Talk about that just a little bit. Was the clone your opinion on clones. Give that if you don't mind. I mean, is that what do you think?
I don't know. We on Heat Wave, I think we had 20, 21 clones on him.
Wow.
Was that the first one you cloned, Phil?
Who Made Who actually was the first bull that we cloned, and that was in 2002. So that was pretty early on.
Yeah. Yep.
I think the Heat Waves came around in, I can't remember, 2006 or 7, I would imagine. But
Yeah.
the clones, I guess.
Yep.
Do you remember when that bull got hot, Phil or Brad, either one of you? Do you remember the first litter of those things that would have got a guy's blood pumping just a little bit?
Oh, I mean, I just distinctly remember how when you got a good one of them, their back, leg, and hip and hair, and it was just something that there was them heat seekers were good. If you'd see a good heat wave, I mean, they were bold and still could get out and go pretty good for the time, and they were just cattle that kept getting better as they matured and got older.
Yeah. Because that was 2000, 2001, 2 there. And heck, like Jason Crick had one that brought 10 or 15,000 there just last year before last. I think he had one up here in South. I mean, you still see him bringing quite a bit of money 20 years later.
Oh yeah.
That's a lot of.
2 years ago, there was a Heat Wave. Caldwell had that won the Illinois State Fair.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Wow.
You bet. And then
Yep.
go ahead, Brett.
No. Go right in there.
I was just gonna keep moving along here. Then we're gonna get. It's just kind of crazy how the club calf deal and we intertwined a few main bulls in here that got popular and kind of how those mains intertwined with this club calf market. But the next bull we're going to talk about in terms of a breed of cattle probably affected the main breed. One of the most influential sires. Well, he's one of the most 25 most influential sires in the breed, and that's Ali.
Yeah.
About him, Phil or Chance.
I guess Ali was born in 2002, and he was raised by Fred DeRushi and Jim Cowan, and sold in the 2003 National Western main sale out there. And I guess that's where Phil purchased him, and he was a Cavanese sire, and he got a lot of use back in those days. I mean, people really took a liking to him.
Oh yeah, there's no doubt the influence that Ali had in the main Anjou breed, but that imprint he had in the club calf world was just as even. And Phil, you said earlier that Payback was a Cavanese bull that got you in a lot of places. Is Ali kind of one of those same things? Those guys, everybody every year seems to hunt Cavanese.
He was a real Cavanese bull, and you'll still see Ollie and pedigrees today that there's some darn good cattle.
Yeah, no, there's no doubt. Do you feel the value of those Cavanese bulls like that? That bull was one of the, I think Witch Doctor was the same way. Those bulls were Cavanese, but they brought quality to the table. And Ali, and then a little bit later, I guess the next one for you was that son of his, that I-80. But those bulls that are high quality and they're Cavanese, those people, do they just knock on your door begging for that semen? I mean, is it, or do those, you still have to get out there and sell it?
You had to sell it, but like those two bulls would, I think they sold like 30,000 units a year. They were unbelievable in the amount of semen that you moved.
Wow. 30,000 units a year on those Cavanese top bulls.
Yeah. That was before everybody was doing a whole bunch of flushing too,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the plus about those Cavanese sires, if somebody's comfortable with their Cavanese, you get up in the Dakotas and they're breeding 100 or 150 heifers, and they may, instead of buying a little of this and a little of this and a little of this, they'd end up buying 150 units of them bulls that was working for them, and they just stuck with it,
Right. Yep. You bet. And we've got 80 up here. We talked about Ali as Corey went off just a second ago, but Corey, that was right up there in your country, and you were a part of those programs that helped build, those genetics.
Yeah, that was actually Fred DeRushi had that bull in Denver the year before I went back to work for him there. But I remember that bull selling in Denver that night in the main sale. But yeah, like Brad said, that bull was really one of the first purebred Maine bulls that the industry accepted as 100% guaranteed surefire cavities. And up in this country, they'd line them deals up. They'd line those heifers up in the alleyway, and they'd just blanket breed hundreds of them to him. There's no doubt about it.
Wow.
And those females were good out of them, but you could get a steer, you'd get some really good bulls. They just, for a cavity sire, that was kind of the first Maine bull that came along that was really socially accepted from cub calf breeders, Maine breeders, a lot of different avenues up in this country for sure.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
And I would say as a group here, we would all say that the Ali female, the I-80 females now, we're finding them show up quite often on the bottom side of these heat waves or monopolies or whatever the case may be.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting how this business has intertwined itself a little bit on those elite genetics, those elite bulls.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brad, you and I visited earlier, some of your earlier days with Phil and delivering semen. And I don't know if it was you or if it was Corey. What was the story about in y'all's younger days of traveling in this horse trailer? Phil had this idea about y'all were going to cover some more territory. How did this happen?
Oh, we was getting weak in our old age, and we didn't like lugging them semen tanks and clear up in the back of a dually pickup. So Phil had bought this horse trailer with living quarters on the front, and he thought it'd be the cat's meow. If somebody's tired, they could pile in there and take a nap, and we didn't have to lift them tanks so high. And we went out to Washington Springs and hit a bunch of them guys, and we was going to go out to Jake Long Breaks, and we switched driving, and Phil was going back to take him a little cat nap, and I crossed the river, and we were hooked up with, he had a Ford dually pickup at the time, and we're doing 85, 90 mile an hour. I look in the rearview mirror, and that side door on that camper is flopping back. And I thought, what in the heck is going on? And I pulled over right quick, and I thought something was the matter back there. And I went back, and Phil hops out of there, and he said, boy, I'll tell you, this ain't going to work. He said, if we keep riding this way, I'll knock my eye teeth, rattle my eye teeth right out of there. So short-lived with him riding back in the back of the trailer in the living quarters. But it was a good idea.
Good idea. Yeah, I got on here, and I don't know, Brad, you weren't on here yet, but I'm telling you, I've laughed all afternoon since we visited. You were bragging on Phil and the quality of bulls that he had that y'all traveled the country with, and you tell the story. You said, a lot of people don't know it, but Phil come from a very humble background and how his family was raised, and I'm going to tell the story because you said, when I first met Phil Lautner, he had 4 tractors in his yard. Not one of them would start.
No, I said 1 out of the 4. One out of the 4. He said, he said he built a good enough bull battery and sold enough semen. It was coming in the mailbox so fast that he said he started buying the skid loaders by the 3s. So Phil found something he liked. He bought 3 of them. So I thought that was really awesome. So
I think maybe I let old Brad one of them.
Yeah, and I wrecked the car trailer bringing it back, I think.
That's great. Well, hey, talk about another pivot point right here, a bull that we're going to visit with next week just a little bit. You own a part of a bull called Monopoly. Talk about him just a little bit.
Go ahead, Chance.
Okay, well, he was a heat wave son, obviously, and he was born in 2006. He came from the Stockridge Farms out of Wisconsin. He was actually out of a purebred Angus cow. And I'd say it took him a couple years to get popular, but probably around that 2010 year, if I remember right, he started winning a lot of shows and started winning a lot of state fairs. So, I mean, everybody kind of knows Monopoly now, and he had a pretty good run for several years.
Right.
And he's the other bull you'll see show up in the pedigree of a lot of them cows, I guess, nowadays.
Yeah. Those clean Monopoly cows are proven that they can raise them high quality show steers today.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we hit on it last week. You know, he niched so well, like back on Irish Whiskey Daughters, and then he niched where he had a number of great ones was back on those Ali Daughters. It just seems like those two main bulls in the ancestry of them cow families. When you bred them to Monopoly, it was almost a runaway. The other thing that I find interesting is, and we hit on it all the way back when we talked to Dean Kephart on Throttle, Full Flush, Heat Wave now, Monopoly, and we're gonna finish with MAB. Them sires were all built to raise show steers to win shows, and boy, you've seen them daughters. They produce right. I mean, nowadays you see a lot of all them bulls in the ancestry of them daughters that are raising those high dollar ones nowadays.
Absolutely. If they could raise good show steers that are capable of winning state fairs, I mean, I think that you'll eventually see them on the bottom side of the pedigree most of the time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and those bulls almost seem like it ain't no seem like it. The trend to me in the show cattle business determines which bull I think is fixing to get popular. And I think, you know, is it by chance? I don't know that you've stayed ahead of the curve a little bit, Phil, in terms of buying that bull that fulfills the need the industry's going. But we talked about Monopoly and where he worked real good, Corey, back on some of them good looking cows, those Ollie's and the I-80s, and they made them softer, they made them sounder. And then all of a sudden, the industry says, wait a minute, we can't do all of these things and leave power. Brad Otto shows up with a Monopoly son that's red and white. And he's got big britches on. Brad, talk about him. Talk about that pivot from Monopoly into some power as the industry turns that direction too.
Oh, probably a little bit of it was luck, honestly. But Greg Bernhardt, a buddy of mine, we were having a fall sale for 2 or 3 or 4 years on the acreage where I'm at now. And I was good buddies with Greg, and he called that spring, like maybe the next day after that calf was born. And of course, I hadn't seen him yet. And he said, boy, I had a red and white cinder block born here last night. And we'd got talking about him through the spring. And anyway, I said, well, I'll get up there and take a look at him sometime. And had never really tossed the idea about promoting the bull, or we kicked it around, but I was probably a little like Phil when Paul Clapp and Sugar Ray and May were promoting. He thought, heck, if they can do it, I can try it too. And Greg actually owned two. We put a little set of cows together for a family he was helping, and he was a parts guy at a John Deere dealership in a little town of West Bend. And he owned 2 cows himself. And one of them was MAB's mother, and she was a hardcore who made who out of an old yellow and white Simmental cow. And I drove up there. I think Greg actually called Brad Smith, and I think Brad might have brought Wade by there. And you could dang sure pick a hole in him, but I mean, he had bone and he had butt, and he was, I mean, fuzzy. And I went up there and looked at him, and I actually come home and kicked it around a little bit, and I was doing some business back and forth with Todd Rao, and I called Todd and I said, hey, would you be interested in buying possession and working a deal out on this red and white bull? And Greg was wanting $10,000 for him. And of course, Todd, he says yes. And I called Greg back and we bought that bull, and I picked him up late summer, and he'd have been around my place when we was having September Labor Day sale, and he was kicked out in a pen just next to some of these little traps I got, and everybody kind of gravitated to him. I mean, he was freaky as far as his bone work and just mass, and he was tremendous haired. I remember we didn't take him to Denver, but we took him to the Iowa Beef Expo. His leg hair, if you didn't watch it, would be one of them that just knot up on a guy. I mean, you had to be real careful, but he was freaky, and you could pick holes in him. He had shoulders on him like Earl Campbell did there, but he could dang sure put some meat and potatoes in him.
So you took him and displayed him in Denver, Brad?
No, we did not go to Denver. We went to the
didn't
Iowa
go to
Beef
Denver.
Expo during junior weekend. They got a little display, and it
Yep.
did nothing like Denver, 6-8 bulls maybe. And
Sure.
we took him down there during that weekend and actually dropped him off at Nichols. This was when Jay was back at Ankeny and Marv's old facility. I think he just recently purchased it. And dropped him off on a Sunday night, and Kephart brought up fertility. We were lucky enough where he was pretty fertile. We dropped him off on that Sunday night, and Monday he froze 130, 40, 50 units of semen, which is pretty unheard of for a club calf pedigreed bull today.
Yeah.
And he was dang fertile for a clubby pedigreed bull.
Yep. And did Todd turn that bull out then that spring?
Oh, up there at Todd's, it's a little bit big country, and it's the survival of the fittest once in a while with Todd. But I talked him out and not taking him up there on the first year, and we kept him down. And I don't know if we sold 800 or 1,000 units of semen, and maybe 400 of it got put in cows the first year, and had a little bank, and we would have picked him up late that summer, and I kicked him out on a little chunk of grass with a handful of cows, and we were green as a gourd as far as the business. I mean, other than seeing how Phil did things and the success he had, and you got to get enough of it out there the first year to give them a chance, and especially on a clubby bull, then it's on them. They got to like them or they're off to something else, because there'll be another one the following year. But his first calf crop, I think our first one was born we was down at the Iowa Beef Expo that next spring, and I think my brother texted me a picture, and it looked like a little red and white fuzzy, and it's just out of an old 600U Semitol cow, and had been getting some early reports of some guys liking him. Todd would have used that bull, actually AI to him in the first year, and when he kind of caught fire, Nick Ryman had drove up and seen them calves at Todd's, and I'd got some semen scattered around, and Dana Dennert used him fairly heavy the first year, and I think Kropa used him a little, and Robbie Van Hove, and maybe Chad Thompson, but got him in some spots that had some good cows, and gave him enough of a chance, and Nick seen that set of calves that Todd had, and I think him and Wade were buddies. He called Wade and just said them things are pretty good, and Wade called me and was wanting to buy a chunk of the bull that following spring, and we come to terms, and Wade ends up buying half semen interest, and he had tremendous marketing power, and then it just took off like one of them Western Nebraska wildfires. I mean, it was really, really good for about 2 really, really good years, and the third year was right close to being as good, and I don't remember exactly what year he gets dinged up. We end up taking him down to Doc Warner in Texas, and he kind of got him back to going a little bit again for about another year, and maybe froze another 10,000 units on him. But it was good. I think second year, maybe Dana Dennert raised a red calf with a white ring around his foot that Todd bought and was maybe reserved in Illinois, and Wade had a red heifer with stocking legs and a blaze face, I think year number 1. And I mean, she had legs on her like railroad ties, but yet was feminine enough. And I think the guy that maybe is advertising on your deal tonight buys her, and she's done him a ton of good. But and then there were several state fair winners. I know he won Wisconsin 2 or 3 years, and then who would think it today? I mean, some of them females are kind of what guys are liking as good as anything, as stout as he was, and the guy'd never think he'd make females, but he dang sure has.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
There was another.
Yeah, I
bull,
remember Nick calling me.
Yeah, tell him about Nick.
I remember Nick calling me after he seen that set of Todd Rouse up there. He actually didn't he. Was it him? Did him and Chad Thompson partner on a bull, or did he just buy a bull from Todd that year?
And I think
That
it was the second year actually
The second year.
he
Yeah.
had a solid black MAB. I actually drove up to Nick's and looked at him in Nick's barn there, and it was dark, and he turned the lights on, and I mean, he was dang nice.
Yep.
I didn't know if I liked him as good as MAB himself, but he was a good bull. I don't remember where he ended up, but there were several good ones. I remember Dana Dennert, and I think he flushed a cow that first year. He had a Doctor Who daughter that he called Esther. So there'd have been like 4 flush mates, and he might have had 11 more AIs born that year. And maybe one of them he blew the wheels off of. The other one maybe had a heifer made the replacement pin. And I think like he had 13 out of the 15 calves born at his place made his pasture sale and averaged 57,800. And there was some, and mostly steers, but there were some dang nice heifers in there as well.
Right.
I mean, consistently, he maybe wouldn't hit the home run every time, but he would give you something pretty marketable.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You must have a thing for colored cattle, because not only do you show up to the game with a red and white spotted one, you show up with a yellow and white one that you own with Phil. Is that right?
Yeah, I think we maybe seen him advertised on Breeders, coming up on a Breeders World Sale, and I think Phil maybe had sent Matt up to take a look at him and wondered if I had time to run up there, not all that far to Vogue. He was at Shannon Vogeley's place, and he was TH clean, which of course MAB was hot. And I remember going in there, and Shannon had him tied up in his wash rack, and just like MAB, you could dang sure poke a hole in him here and there, but he did some things really, really good. He had a neck that reached from Manning to Madison, South Dakota, and could get out and go good enough. I mean, he probably had a little fluid on his legs when we looked at him, and I just said, Phil, if a guy buys this thing, I don't know if a guy needs to take him to Denver, because it seems like when you take one of them things, they're all wanting to throw a stone or two. But that bull did Phil some good and did me some good as well. I had a little sliver of him. Matt had a little bigger sliver, and Phil had the rest of it. And I was selling some of that stuff online, and I think maybe retail was $25 or $30 at the time. And them guys was wanting it bad enough where I was selling it for not. Justin Muck gives me a little heck to this day. He had to give $90 for it. So I don't know if he's wanting a refund on it or what the deal is, but he did have a litter of them that first year. I think he had 4 or 5 steers and maybe a heifer, and all of them make his. I think all of them make his pasture sale, and I think Tracy ends up buying one of them for $7,000-8,000 and ended up going on and doing some good. I think it was back on that 800 donor that he's got today that he still flushes.
Brad, talk about that Dakota Gold heifer that Chris Black had in his sale.
Oh yeah. There was them things are still selling good. Black had a bred that John Sacco sent down there last year, and that thing sold for not quite as good as the goat, but dang near that high. I think tickling 200,000.
Not as good as the goat, he said.
Mm-hmm.
No. Hey, Phil and Chance, visit just a little bit. You guys beat the road today as hard as you ever did in terms of staying in front of the people and promoting your bulls in the industry as well. What is it when you're out on the road? What is it that catches your eye today for the next generation? I mean, what are you looking for?
Oh, well, you're just I guess you're looking at the industry trends and what's popular at this time. And I guess you're always, like we're talking, a lot of these bulls, at some point, there's going to be one that comes along and replaces them, I guess. So try to look for that next generational bull, I guess. And we're always on the look.
Yeah, you bet.
I mean, I think
important.
Power and mass were a big thing in the 90s, transition into the 2000s. And now all of a sudden, hey, they got to be powerful, massive, and can still get out there and go and have some presence. And
right.
it just gets tougher and tougher to make them as good as these things are getting to be today.
Yep. Yeah, and how many times do you see a show steer and say, you know what, if that guy had just left that thing intact, I could buy me another skid steer.
There you go.
You know, I mean, how many? I'm being genuine there. How many of those show steers do you see today?
Hey,
Or Phil or Brad? And
Phil is actually taking that one step farther, because there was a steer that won Houston one time, and that's what Solid Gold is a clone to, isn't it, Phil?
Yeah, that one. I bought him when he was 4. Well, I think I bought the right to clone him at 4 or 5 or 6 months old, and then a year later he won Houston. And
that steer went on to win Houston, and that's what Solid Gold is a clone to that steer that won Houston.
he's not a clone to that. Oh, yes, Solid Gold is, yes.
Yeah.
I'll be dang. Wow.
Yep. And that's not the only Big Papa. He would have been a clone to the Kansas City steer that Baylor showed.
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time when Phil was actually kind of you did that a little bit.
Red Rocky'd be a current one that was.
Red Rocky was a clone to Shocky's champion Denver steer.
Yeah, he was a monopoly red one. Had Crimson Tide's full sister, and he's had success here in this past year. Started the champion steer at Louisville and reserve at Fort Worth in the past year. So,
awesome.
So, actually, to answer your question, Brett, Phil has seen some steers he liked and just made bulls out of them.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah.
Good. Like it. Pat Wolf, he's on here. He's watching tonight. He says one of his best and most consistent cows is a heat wave, and she milks well too. So there's can't beat a good whiskey or a good heat wave cow. So
that's for sure.
Anyway, what's coming next for either one of you guys? Brad, you're probably got SC sale going to close here tonight, and you're one.
No, I actually don't have anything tonight. We're just kind of winding down. Got a couple good genetic sales here later in the week. Robbie Van Hove's got one, and Timmy Heckman there at Midwest Genetics, and Lacey Caffey's got one. But just winding down, even on the genetics thing, just a little bit. So we're actually having a company meeting here coming up at the end of the week. Guyer's treating us to a little trip to Vegas, so we're going to get together and have a little meeting and have a little fun to boot.
Oh yeah,
I bet you there'll be a lot of fun with you guys gathered up in that town.
Let's hope not too much. In my
You wake up with a tiger in your bathroom, Brad, we'll know it's a good time.
Yeah. In my younger day, you'd have to worry a little bit. It took them a while, but they finally got a little sharper bit in my mouth, and they got me broke to lead.
Broke to lead. Phil, Chance, what about you guys? Semen business is just ever popular and hot today, isn't it?
Oh yeah, we're shipping tanks every day, and I actually plan on getting back out on the road starting tomorrow, making farm visits. I've been doing that the last several weeks, and heading out to Nebraska and Colorado, I guess, tomorrow. So
I got you. Good deal.
Nebraska and Colorado. You bet.
What's been popular in your travels from you guys, Bull Battery? What is it that seems like's working, and what are the people after?
Well, that Icon bull that we own with Dave Duello, he's sure been popular this spring. He's 3/4 main. Really been selling quite a bit of him, I guess. And Big Oak, he's a 1 Oak son out of a I-80, and he's been popular. He's TH free. Red Rocky as well. Siring them stout, colorful steers, I guess. So I guess them are a few that I can think off the top of my head.
Those front and centers look good up this way for a clean bull.
Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Phil, you got to tell one funny story yet, Phil. Tell them about the time that you had the boys with you and your latch on your trunk on your car was broken. And
we were in Nebraska. And I had an old car, and I used
Bungee.
cord to keep the trunk down, and one of the boys must have had the back seat laying down, and he had his feet sticking out the trunk. And the highway patrolman pulled us over in Nebraska and thought maybe we had a dead body back there. And I think it was Matt that had his feet sticking out the trunk.
I was the other. I can neither confirm nor deny that story.
Oh, man. They had a dead body in there. Oh my gosh.
Couldn't get him wedged in there quite all the way.
I should have welded that trunk shut. Because I probably couldn't afford to fix it.
Oh my gosh. That's good. Oh, well, hey guys, it's been good having y'all on tonight. And as we work our way through this this evolution series and talking about the influential bulls, and like I said earlier, we landed tonight in Jefferson, and I don't know that it'd be hard to pull off. You've had such a big influence in this business. And you continually have that influence in this club calf business, and I want to just say thanks for Phil and Chance, both of y'all taking the time to be on here. Brad, thank you.
Thank
We
you
close
for
every one of these.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet. But we close every one of these Cattle Drive Lives with a section that we call Cattlemen's for Christ. And tonight, Proverbs 18:24. I just thought about you two old friends on here. This kind of fit. It says, friends are friends and they come and go. But a true friend will stick to your side just like family. And so I don't know if that holds true for everybody in every situation, but in this situation, two old friends on here, that's what come together tonight. So anyway, thanks guys for being on here. And next week, we're going to visit about the bull monopoly and what and how he influenced the pivot in the club calf business. So guys, thanks. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You bet.